The night sea was black and silent, broken only by the low hum of engines cutting through the Arctic cold. Snow-covered mountains loomed like ghosts over the Norwegian coast as Allied ships slipped toward enemy-held shores. What followed was not a full-scale invasion, not a famous battle remembered in school books, but a sharp, daring strike that changed the course of the war in ways few could have imagined. This was Operation Claymore, a raid so precise and bold that its impact echoed far beyond the frozen islands where it unfolded. Hello, welcome back to the channel. In early 1941, Europe was suffocating under Nazi control. Norway, invaded the previous year, had become a vital asset for Germany. Its long coastline offered safe harbors for U-boats, its skies shielded air operations, and its industries quietly fed the German war machine. Among the most important of these industries was fish oil production, something that seemed harmless at first glance but was essential for making glycerin, a key ingredient in explosives. The remote Lofoten Islands, far north of the Arctic Circle, were producing vast quantities of this oil, shipping it directly to Germany while remaining lightly defended. To British planners, these islands represented both a vulnerability and an opportunity. The British government, still reeling from defeats and desperate for a morale-boosting victory, approved a daring commando operation. The plan was simple in concept but risky in execution. A small force would sail deep into enemy-occupied waters, strike multiple targets simultaneously, destroy vital supplies, gather intelligence, and withdraw before German forces could react. It was a new kind of warfare, one built on speed, surprise, and precision rather than mass armies and prolonged battles. The newly formed British Commandos would be tested for the first time in hostile territory. On March 4, 1941, a mixed force of British Commandos and Norwegian volunteers departed Scotland aboard destroyers and troop ships. The presence of Norwegian soldiers was crucial. They knew the terrain, the weather, and the people, and their participation sent a powerful message to occupied Europe that resistance was alive. As the ships approached the Lofoten Islands, the weather worked in their favor. A heavy snowstorm reduced visibility and masked their arrival, allowing the Allied force to slip past German patrols unnoticed. At dawn, the silence was broken. Commandos landed at multiple locations across the islands, moving swiftly through fishing villages where German presence was minimal. Many enemy soldiers were caught completely off guard, some still asleep, others unsure if this was a drill or a real attack. The commandos moved with discipline and restraint, securing objectives without unnecessary bloodshed. Factories producing fish oil were rigged with explosives, warehouses were set ablaze, and ships carrying valuable cargo were seized or destroyed in the harbors. What made the operation remarkable was not just its success, but its efficiency. In just a few hours, over 800,000 gallons of fish oil were destroyed, depriving Germany of a crucial wartime resource. Several enemy ships were captured or sunk, including armed trawlers used for patrol duties. More importantly, the commandos gathered intelligence that would prove invaluable in the coming years, including documents and equipment related to German naval communications. Perhaps the most human impact of the raid came when hundreds of Norwegian volunteers chose to leave with the British forces. Fishermen, sailors, and young men who refused to live under occupation boarded the departing ships, joining the Free Norwegian forces in exile. For them, Operation Claymore was not just a raid, but an escape from oppression and a chance to fight back. As quickly as it began, the operation ended. Before German reinforcements could respond, the Allied force withdrew, disappearing back into the icy waters of the North Sea. Casualties were astonishingly low. Not a single British or Norwegian soldier was killed, a rare outcome in wartime operations of this scale. For Britain, desperate for good news, Operation Claymore was a triumph. Yet the true significance of the Lofoten Raids went far beyond the immediate destruction. The raid sent shockwaves through the German High Command. It exposed how vulnerable the long Norwegian coastline was to sudden attack. Adolf Hitler, already deeply concerned about protecting occupied territories, reacted with fury. He ordered tens of thousands of troops, artillery units, and fortifications to be deployed across Norway, resources that could have been used on other fronts. In trying to defend against raids like Claymore, Germany tied down forces that would never see combat elsewhere. The raid also validated the commando concept. Until then, special operations were seen as risky experiments. Operation Claymore proved that small, highly trained units could strike deep behind enemy lines and achieve strategic results disproportionate to their size. This lesson would shape future operations. From raids along the French coast to large-scale amphibious landings later in the war. Equally important was the intelligence coup achieved during the raid. Among the captured materials was a complete Enigma rotor and codebooks recovered from a seized German vessel. Though the full impact remained secret for years, these items significantly aided Allied codebreakers in their struggle to decipher German naval communications. Every decoded message meant lives saved at sea, convoys protected, and U-boats hunted more effectively. A small raid in the Arctic had strengthened the invisible war of intelligence. For the Norwegian population, Operation Claymore carried immense symbolic weight. News of the raid spread quietly through occupied Norway, whispered from village to village. It proved that the Allies had not forgotten them, that liberation, however distant, was still possible. The participation of Norwegian troops showed that their nation had not surrendered its will, even if its land was occupied. As the war continued, the Lofoten Islands returned to a tense normalcy. German defenses grew heavier, patrols more frequent, and the coast bristled with guns. In a way, this was another Allied victory. Every bunker built in Norway was a bunker not built in France or the Soviet Union. Every soldier stationed there was one less facing Allied forces elsewhere. Operation Claymore had altered German strategy without ever seeking a decisive battle. Looking back, it is easy to overlook such raids in the shadow of massive campaigns and famous battles. Yet war is not shaped by single moments alone, but by cumulative pressure, by small actions that force an enemy to react, adapt, and overextend. Operation Claymore was one of those actions. It was a statement of intent from a nation still standing, still fighting, and still learning how to strike back. The men who took part returned to Britain with a sense of pride and purpose. They had proven themselves, proven their tactics, and proven that the war was not only about holding ground, but about initiative. For the Commandos, this was the beginning of a legacy that would carry them across beaches, cliffs, and enemy strongholds throughout the war. In the frozen waters of the Lofoten Islands, far from the headlines of London or Berlin, a quiet operation had delivered a loud message. The Allies could reach anywhere. Occupation did not mean safety. And even in the darkest days of the war, courage, planning, and surprise could still shift the balance. Operation Claymore may have been a raid, but its impact was anything but small.